Well, hi guys. Hope you're all well. We're still locked down over here. It's easing up a little bit, but you know, I hope you're all keeping safe. Well, this is a few guys have asked me about this four-stroke bike. Well, I'll do a little bit on it. So I thought, well, I'll do the story of how far I've got at the moment. It's come along quite nicely. Now, if you've seen my other videos, you know that I've got a sort of passion for these four-stroke engines, Toyons, OS, whatever. They are, I just like them. I like a four-stroke engine. Now, I've been looking for one of these TT bikes for a long while now. You used to be able to get them sort of a few years ago. You could get them really cheap. They wasn't kind of like flavour of the month, or I don't know why, but they just didn't really catch on. So after seeing what the frame was like, I thought to myself, well, that'd be an ideal bike to put a four-stroke in, because you'd have so much room and you can sling the engine from underneath, and you wouldn't have to have it like my NF bike where you've got two side frames and the engine sits in the middle. It gets very hot, and also if you've got to work on it, it's a real pain. You have to strip the whole thing down every time you want to work on it. So I thought, if I had one of those TT frames, well, I think I could make a nice four-stroke project out of it, So that's what I've been looking for. Well, I could not find one for under like £600 or £500, and they wasn't all great, second hand. But I come across this one last week, and it was good money. It wasn't a lot of money. Like, I think it was up for 185, and I'll give the guy 140 for it. And apart from the bodywork, it wasn't in bad condition really. But, I don't know what these tyres are made of, what it was on there, but, they're like plastic or something, so, I won't be able to use them. But they come with this little, a little Thunder Tiger 12 engine, and I've had this apart from the usual rusty bearings. It looks like it's hardly been run, hardly been used. So I expect I can use that for something or other. It's got a roto start in it, so that was in there. Now, I took it all apart, and I took my Novo Throw apart, my NF four-stroke, because even though it went quite well, I was never really happy with it. Like when you took the body off, there was a lot of bits I had to cut out, and it's evolved over the years, that bike, and there's a lot on it I wasn't happy with, but I sort of kept running it. So I thought what I'll do is I'll strip both bikes down and put them in a big box and shake it up and see what I'll come up with. So this is the story so far. I'm using the NF forks that I made years ago, because they're upside down forks, and the forks that came with it were the standard, I think what came with the bike since year dot, where is it? Right, the normal, the Ducati didn't have those on, that's something from bygone age. All the bikes now have got upside down forks, but you can see the condition of them. It's not really been used or done any work whatsoever. So I thought I don't really want to put them on there. So I took the NF ones off that I made, and I put them on there. I'm using the TT headstock. It's quite nice. I like the colour of it and everything like that. I've got the engine out of the NF four-stroke, and as you can see, it fits in there quite nicely. It's it sort of just, where you gone? Right, it just just turns up a little bit, probably about 25-30 degrees on the main frame like that. Now, the problem I had, if you can see the engine mountings there, I've got one there, and you've got one on the back side of it there. Now, this engine is 3mm wider than the little Thunder Tiger, so they sit in there like that. So I had to machine the engine mounts, clear them away, and I had to re-plug the holes, because the holes are in the wrong place. So I plugged the holes up, re-drilled them to get this engine as far as I could to the left hand side. If you can see, I'm going to have to put in that, there's a little gap there. Well, I've got the engine so far back, I can't put the engine cover bolt in. I'm going to make some little countersunk screws to go in there. but you know, I was looking for like 2 mil to get this 2-speed gearbox in. You can see I've got a 2-speed box in there. Now that's a Kyosho gearbox, and the original bike, the gearing of 17 pinion, I believe, and 46 spur gear. Now, this first speed on this one is going to be a 1243, so it's fairly low gear. And the second gear, or higher gear, is going to be 1640, so it should be quite similar to what I had before. But like I say, I had to, you know, I was looking for millimetres, you know, about 2 millimetre to get that in, and I couldn't do it. So if you can see there, I've had to just space the frame out. So a little spacer there, 2 mil spacer I've got there, just to get that gear in there. And obviously I've had to space this out to get it in the centre. So after I did that, you know, I thought I'd work my way to the clutch. Now a lot of people have asked me about the reverse clutch. So I've got the reverse clutch bell in there. Now it's not, you know, it's not a hard job to do sometimes, but it's trying to fit the bearings onto the crankshaft. Now, because I'm running such a small, that is a 12 tooth, there's not a lot of meat in there for me to bore out and fit a couple of ball races. So what I've done, if I just take off the clutch here, so that is the reverse clutch. It's on a collet. So I've got a little collet there which goes on the crank, and then I've got a screw here, if I can get it undone. Right. Right, so that dropped it. Okay, so we've got reverse clutch, the collet, and the adapter to screw on there. Now the clutch itself, what I've had to do is put the spacer on the threaded part, because that is 8 mil, so that is the crank is a good size, 8 mil, and the actual bore of this clutch bell was 8 mil as well. So what I thought I'd do is I've made a sleeve to go on there. If I can show you, if I can get this sleeve out. Right, I've got the sleeve out. So what I've done is on the threaded part there, I've made a sleeve at 8 mil, and then I managed to bore that out and make a very thin wall bronze bush that goes right the way through. It's a bit old school design, but it's all I could do. I couldn't get that any bigger. So now the clutch goes on the on the bush and the sleeve. This actually locks it all in place. Like so. So that's in there like that. And then you put the collet on, which goes down on top of that. And then you put the reverse clutch, which goes on like that. And you've got a locking screw that locks it up. And that's how the reverse clutch actually works on that. It's quite simple. Can have a few problems with it, but you know, it keeps everything tucked in the bike, you know, as narrow as possible. Because I know it looks a wide frame, but this is only 2 mil wider than standard. So it is, and the NF bike is as wide as this as well. They're kind of all like a standard size. Now, I've made the holes actually for adjusting the gear mesh. I've not had to alter them whatsoever, but I've got a feeling I might have to run some lower gears on there. So if I have to, I can move that backwards and forwards. Now, the other problem I've got as well is, as usual, the carburettor. It's sticking out a long way from that side because I've had to move the engine so far over. I mean, you can see the gap there between the frame and the engine, but there's not a lot I can do with that. I mean, the fairings actually go on there okay, but, you know, if you ever seen one of Nolan Farmer's bikes, he had like a head he had heads made where he had the exhaust coming out the bottom and the carburetor sitting on the top. Whereas these ones are like 90 degrees, you've got the exhaust coming out the top and the carb. And it's always been a problem of mine of how to mount the carb, how to make it sort of slim enough. But the good thing with this, because the engine's slanted up, if you can see that, the engine sits like at an angle. So the carburetor is kind of like up at an angle as well. So it's a bit higher up in the actual body shell itself. So it's not on the curve like it was with my NF. So, you know, and the other good thing as well, where the servo goes standard, I can have a straight pull for the carburetor because I've got myself an OS slide carb on this, which is supposed to be really good on these engines. So I'm hoping big things out of this. Now, the other thing as well with this bike, what I'm trying to do is make it very simple and very light. I could not believe, when I started stripping down the Novo 4, how heavy parts were on it. I mean, it's got like a billet swinging arm, you know, the SF501 swinging arm, and I just sort of felt the weight of that, and it's a very heavy kind of setup. You know, he did handle okay, but, you know, I just think it is very heavy. And also, when I took the tank off, bear with me, I took the tank off and I thought, God, you know, why is that saving? I thought, well, I'm running like a 5-cell battery, you know, metal hard drive battery, so that's a lot of weight there, you know, which I can do without. I can put a small lipo in there or something like that and just run that so I can get rid of that. Now, I also had a fan on the NF. I'm hoping, I'm going to try it without a fan to see if it goes heat, but I've got so much room on this side. You know, if it does need a fan, I can put one sort of on that side and sort of blow in there, but I'm going to try it first without a fan. Now, one of the other big headaches was I wanted to keep this exhaust because I like, you know, the look of it. It's very neat, and these engines perform with like an open pipe. Like they really, you can get a lot of revs out of them with an open pipe, you know. And I did look about making my own pipe up and things, but I thought, I'll see if I can adapt this one. Now, what you've got to remember with this is that, like, this engine sat in there kind of like that. And when you think the exhaust on a 4-stroke comes out up there, and on this engine, it came out down there. So it kind of pulled all this exhaust about 25mm forward that way. So this left the problem of these mounting, or these stiffeners that go through here where you mount the rear subframe on. It means I couldn't use them because the exhaust was in the way. So what I've managed to do is I've cut off the header part where it bolted through to those 2 screws. So I cut that off, and I used the alley soldering, and I made like a piece to go in there, a threaded piece, so it can screw it into the head of the engine. So that's quite a solid kind of lump. And then I had to mill or turn this away here to clear the exhaust. Just a little, like a cotton reel shape, just to clear that. But it was right in the way of this rear screw here. This, you know, where this subframe mounts on there, I could not put a screw in there. And I thought to myself, well, maybe it'd be okay without one, but on the other side of it, you've got a lot of pressure with these springs. You know, they've got a lot of, it's a big heavy spring, that is, and I thought it really needs to have something in there. So I thought to myself again, what could I do? So I actually cut away the exhaust like half round, and I welded the sleeve onto it. So I welded that all the way around there, and I cleaned up the weld and that. But this is the alley soldering. I've been sort of getting used to using it. So now I'm using the exhaust with the bolt through there, and it's nice and solid. So it's mounted solid at the front, solid there, and we've got the twin exhaust on the back, which I like a Ducati style. So, you know, this is where we've got so far. I've got some issues. This is supposed to be longer. I don't know why. It's supposed to be 109mm, but it's not, so that's not a problem. But I've got the rear brake, can run off this side of the servo. So that's going to run back to the back wheel. Now the wheels, now these are the wheels that come with a Ducati. I mean, they're knocked around a little bit. but they are a very light wheel. You know, there's pros and cons for these. Now, all right, nice light wheel, keeps the weight down, makes it turn a bit sharper. But these are very fragile wheels. They're only like cast aluminium, and if you do have a knock, you can break them. But hopefully, I'm planning not to have a knock. So I'm going to see if I can use these wheels, because they are a very light wheel, and I'm trying to keep the weight down. You know, I'm going to cut all these servo wires down. I'm not going to run the U-back on it. I'm going to try not to run the fan. You know, I've got 3 servos on the NF. I'm going to just use the 2 basic servos and stuff like that. So I'm trying to sort of keep this as light as possible. And, you know, I mean, I'm really pleased the way it looks. I mean, without the body on, it looks really trick. And, you know, it's been a fair bit of work, you know, but, you know, I don't mind doing that. Like I say, the wheels in good condition. You know, they've got a little bit of corrosion on them. I'm going to try and paint a red line again and, you know, do whatever. But I know they're not a strong wheel, but they are very, very light. So I'm going to go down the road of trying to use these wheels. Now, the front brake kit for this bike is really hard to find, and it's very expensive. So I'm thinking of using my standard NF brake, if I can find it. Oh, I know it's in here somewhere. Oh, but anyway, I'm going to use if I can, I'm going to try and adapt this, because on here, the disc locates on 4 little lugs around there. They've just got a little cutaway on there. I'm not too happy about that, but I'm going to try and adapt my NF brake, because it works so well, to go on the front. And I think I can actually get a hexagon on there, or do something with that to make it, you know, I can run the NF disc. I know that's tried and tested. And the rear wheel has a brake disc on it as well. I've got all the parts of that. That's quite easy to set up, the rear brake, but the front one is not going to be so easy. I mean, if I can find the standard TT brake, maybe I can put that on, but it's made to go on the standard fork, so I don't think I'll be able to use it. So I think I'm going to have to go with the NF brake. But say, these wheels are quite light compared to, you know, these ones here. I know it's got the tyre on, but what I'm going to try and do is get some new, these are PMT 200s, I think. A fantastic tyre, I like them. I've got them on a lot of my bikes. I mean, I've got roadies on some electric bikes and that, but they're so unforgiving if you go over a bump or something. These have got a little bit of give in them, and they last for ages, and they've got, you know, tremendous grip. So I'm going to see if I can get another set of these, mount them on there, because, like I said, the tyres, these are the tyres that come with the front of the tyre, and honestly, they must be made out of plastic, because they're just, you know, they're a waste of time. I mean, these are the mock, or the, you know, front discs that came with it, they're only in plastic, you know, and it's funny really, because they sort of stay still when the wheel turns. It's a weird setup. They've got, this is all the back TT stuff, which I'm going to use. I've got the chain, everything, and you can see where the brake goes on that, so, you know, that doesn't need a lot of work, hopefully. Battery holder, you know, it's quite a nice little thing. I can run what I like in that little battery. So everything really, you know, is, you know, these bikes, I mean, the forks went straight in, you know, and to be honest with you, I'm sure they're all made kind of like the same. It's got the spring-loaded, you know, crash back protection on it, as you can see that moving on the top there. It's got the spring back, but the forks, they fit in there perfectly. The ones that I made, you know, they're only air damped. They're quite a nice action. So I'm looking forward to it again. Again, we've got this swinging arm, which is not great. It's cast alley, not the best, but it's very light again. There's no weight to it. So I know if you crash it, whatever, they might break, you know. But I think, you know, these things do move, but I think if I can be careful with it, I've not really bash the things. They haven't got enough power to sort of wheelie really, but they're fast once they get running. Maybe with a 2-speed it'd be a little bit more peppy off the line. But like I say now, I've got a very light bike here. You know, it's going to be so much lighter than the other one, and I'm sure it's going to be a really good handling bike. So I'm happy with the way things are going. The next part I think I'm going to have to do is get the wheels in there, and I think the really big problem I'm going to have is fitting the front wheel and the front brake, because I've got a mismatch of parts there. But, you know, it might be easier than I thought. I mean, the engine was a nightmare to fit in there. The exhaust was the biggest problem I've had so far. The carburetor's on there. I'm happy with the way it works, but it's still sticking out a little bit far for me, and I can't mill anything off it. I can't move the engine over because, you know, it tightened up the gears. So this is the story so far, guys. Obviously, I'm going to put some better servos in there. This is just a dry mock-up, just to see how everything all fits together before I Loctite everything, you know. But so far, I'm really pleased with that. So if you want to subscribe or give me the thumbs up, I'll be well happy. So stay safe, guys, and I'll see you soon.